InvestorIdeas.com podcast.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcasts. In today's podcast, we look at a few public company announcements from AUSA Holdings Limited, trading on the CSE as XTRX and formerly known as Phyto Extractions Incorporated, as well as Australis Capital Incorporated, currently operating as Audacious, trading on the CSE as AUSA and the OTC as AUSAF. Fire and Flower Holdings Corporation, trading on the TSX as FAF and the OTCQX as FFLWF, as well as Village Farms International Incorporated, trading on the NASDAQ and the TSX as VFF. So first today, starting with Village Farms International Incorporated, who unveiled new corporate branding and launched its new corporate website at villagefarms.com. Now, the Village Farms' new corporate branding embodies the company's evolution over the last 4 years to a vertically integrated plant-based consumer product company targeting high-growth, large market opportunities in North America and around the world with a specific focus on cannabinoids and related health products. Now, Village Farms is building a family of brands that improve life's journey for the well-being of humankind and the earth on which we live. And while each has its own products and approach, they are united by shared core values: integrity, fairness, quality, inclusion, sustainability, and hard work, all of which are underpinned by the unwavering desire to do what's right. Now, the company's new corporate branding is anchored by the mantra "Good for All," which is an expression of Village Farms' unrelenting commitment to its customers, consumers, partners, employees, shareholders, and other stakeholders to act with responsibility and resourcefulness with respect for people and the planet. We are thrilled to share our new corporate branding, logo, and website with the world, said Michael DeGiglio, CEO of Village Farms. Our new branding reflects the transformation of our company over the last 4 years to a family of brands as we have leveraged our deep institutional knowledge and extensive capabilities gained over the 3 decades in combination with unmatched controlled environmental agricultural assets to build on a proud heritage in the product business through significant new opportunities in cannabis, CBD, and related products. Now, as part of the new launch, Village Farms also unveiled an updated investor presentation, which is available in the investor relations section on the website. So Village Farms, not really, I would say, rebranding there, more just updating their website and corporate policy. Again, more in line with sustainability and where their brand is going to be moving, pushing forward. I don't see that this really changes a lot of their business model or any of the things that they've been doing over the last while. Mainly just in general meant to show that the company is moving forward, and probably just because, like many cannabis websites, their stuff was out of date and not looking as fresh as it needed to. But this also does show a general trend that's been happening with a lot of companies lately, which is rebranding. And refocusing, trying to change public perceptions around a lot of these companies. You've seen a lot of companies now changing their names or their branding or their website or all three. And this does just seem to be that I think that they're trying to get more attention to their companies or remove any of the bad attention that used to happen with some of these brands. That could be the potential as well. I don't see any bad press in Village Farms past, really, so they have actually done a good job with their brand. That's why they're not changing their name. But a few of the other public company announcements today, for instance, looking at Australis Capital, which is now going as Audacious, and then AUSA Holdings, which used to be Phyto Extractions. Those are examples, again, of other companies sort of rebranding or shifting their focus, which does seem to be an overall thing you're seeing in the cannabis industry right now, is a lot of companies seem to be reassessing where they're going to be focusing on which specific markets within the cannabis industry they're going to be really aggressively competing in over the next couple of months to the next year. Looking next at Fire and Flower Holdings Corporation, who announced the closing of its previously announced acquisitions of Potguide as well as WikiLeaf. As Hi-Fire focuses on expanding its virtual presence in the company's e-commerce revenue channels, the additions of Potguide and WikiLeaf are expected to enhance Hi-Fire's asset-light approach and provide a scalable entry point to capture new customers and Spark Perks members in both Canada and the U.S. As two of the most visited websites and content platforms serving the cannabis industry in North America, Hi-Fire intends to leverage the significant user-generated traffic by these sites to convert digital visitors into cannabis and accessory purchases fulfilled by Fire and Flower's retail network. And additionally, the acquisitions are expected to provide Hi-Fire with a U.S. base for technology and operations. Total consideration for the purchase of Pot Guide was approximately $8.5 million, and for WikiLeaf it was $7.5 million. And to learn more about Pot Guide and WikiLeaf, you can visit their websites, potguide.com or wikileaf.com. So these announcements I talked about over the last weeks now have been finalized. Pot Guide and WikiLeaf both under the Fire and Flower Holdings Corporation, more specifically working with Hi-Fire. And I do think that, again, when you're looking at, in general, the data sets and sort of consumer information and trends that Hi-Fire has access to in the Fire and Flower Holdings Corp retail footprint in Canada, I do think that now with assets like Pot Guide and WikiLeaf, they're going to have a lot more consumer insight, especially within now the U.S. markets as they go and start entering into each U.S. market. I do think that this will give them a little bit of a competitive edge, and as well, just as far as valuable data within the cannabis industry when it comes to overall consumer insights and trends. I think Hi-Fire and the Sparks Perk program have some real significant assets there and are only going to grow sort of exponentially with the help of Pot Guide and WikiLeaf now. Looking next at CEO Terry Booth, who announced that Australis Capital Incorporated, operating as Audacious, has entered into a binding term sheet on September 14th to acquire 100% of the issued and outstanding shares of BW McCaw Group Incorporated, also known as Herbs. Now, Herbs has entered into a distribution agreement with Ease, which is California's largest legal cannabis delivery and distribution company. And additionally, the company has 2 contract manufacturers lined up to commence production of the company's products in California. And in addition to the retail license that's part of the contemplated transaction, Herb's business license also includes the ability to cultivate, manufacture, and distribute cannabis products. So we're very excited about our expansion in California through a compellingly valued transaction that sees us establish a brick-and-mortar presence in an underserved market while teaming with Ease, one of the marquee names in the industry with over 800,000 registered companies, said Terry Booth, CEO. Now, consequently, our Ease partnership will be able to provide consumers throughout California with access to award-winning brands, including our loose shots and our new 1-gram disposable cartridge format, which will be available in our dispensary and on the Ease menu shortly. Now, additionally, coming with a license allows manufacturing and cultivation, and this transaction, once closed, will provide us with the option to scale up operations throughout the value chain to capture higher margins. And this transaction will accelerate our revenue growth while reflecting our ongoing execution towards becoming a Tier 1 MSO. Australis Capital, acquisition of Herbs, very much showing that now with Terry Booth as the company CEO, which has only been for not too long now, I believe about a year and a half, I do believe that this is kind of showing where the company is heading. They talked about different directions over the past few months, again with sort of the relaunch of their company name with Audacious, and now are really jumping up their expansion plans, obviously entering into California here. This license will be one of only 16 dispensary licenses in San Jose, so that does give them a good advantage. And then it also comes with, again, the partnership with Ease, which is another good advantage in that market. Be interesting to see how this company evolves over the next few months to years with Terry Booth sort of pushing them in a different direction. Not saying that he is the sort of sole reason, but again, he does have his track record with other companies, so this is a very similar strategy to what he has played in the past. And again, it'll be interesting to see how this company continues to reposition itself. Again, Australis Capital in the past was a very sort of different setup of a company, but now really focusing on being a large-scale MSO, which there are a lot of already in the U.S., so it'll be tough to compete too aggressively, too fast, but it'll be interesting to see how that builds out. And again, if we see more acquisitions within a short time, we'll kind of know that this strategy is going to be continued for quite some time. It'll be interesting to see, again, how long they can keep that going and hopefully continue to get revenue fast enough to maintain more acquisitions in the future. Lastly today, looking at Ad Astra Holdings, formerly known as Phyto Extractions, who announced record preliminary unaudited provincial wholesale sales throughout August 2021 of nearly 1.7 million, which represents a 27% increase over the prior 3-month average and puts year-to-date brand sales for the first 8 months of 2021 at approximately 8.7 million compared to 6.7 for all of 2020. So Not really any specifics about the products as far as showing trends that are any different than what you've already seen. But something to be aware of is that, again, as COVID restrictions are starting to pop up in provinces again and also in the U.S., and as you're seeing difficulties with these passports in different provinces and states and parts of the world, you are going to see a push towards online sales, online delivery. There's been a lot of build out in both Canada and the US when it comes to the infrastructure to help provide online and at-home delivery options for cannabis companies. There's a lot more options now. There's much bigger menus. Average consumers are much more used to looking at and ordering from their phone already. So I would expect over the next couple of months, as we go into the winter and potential further lockdowns or changes due to these variants, you are going to expect to see a lot of boosts in sales, probably again around that 20 to 30% mark again. This is similar to what we've seen in the past with lockdowns and restrictions in the past with COVID. So there is somewhat of a trend here that could pick up again, which is going to be good for a lot of these companies. That being said, it's not really going to be a representation of their products exactly, more to do with, again, the general trend of an uptick in overall sales, and mainly through online distribution. That's all for today's podcast. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.